Cenk, what you don't know is that John and I have these conversations on the show when you're not here about who's crazier, who's dumber, right? Is it Marjorie Taylor Greene, or is it the My Pillow guy, Mike Lindell? I was gonna call him Mark for some reason. And I think we have an answer today.
Well, let's find out.
All right, it's sad that John's not here to enjoy this moment. But
we should do a poll.
Well, I mean, after the story, you don't really need a poll. Okay,
interesting.
So, while Mike Lindell is under the impression that Donald Trump will be reinstated as president, Marjorie Taylor Greene, shockingly, is the voice of reason pushing back against that narrative. Let's watch.
I want people to be careful in what they believe. It's going to be very difficult to overturn the 2020 election. And so I hate for anyone to get their hopes up thinking that President Trump's going to be back in the White House in August, because that's not true. And I'm telling you, as a member of Congress, that's a very difficult thing to make happen.
Now, that's an important point to make. I can't believe it's coming from Marjorie Taylor Greene. And just to give you a little refresher in regard to what Mike Lindell said recently, he actually put a specific date on the reinstatement of Donald Trump. Let's watch.
By the time the morning of August 13th, it'll be the talk of the world going, hurry up, let's get this election pulled down, let's right the right. Let's get these communists out, that had taken over. And you'll see, when I say that, and they'll say, well, what's going to happen to all the people that were involved? I don't know. Right now, the biggest concern is getting this election pulled down. Donald Trump won. I mean, it's pretty simple.
I love that they think that there are communists in the White House.
Biden's a communist. Biden.
I mean, we kind of missed that, I think, the first time we covered that story, but they're so delusional about corporate Democrats. Corporate Democrats are just like the corporate Republicans in a lot of ways. Anyway, okay.
So you know what communists don't say to a room full of wealthy donors? Nothing will fundamentally change.
Totally.
I'm pretty sure the communists are looking for fundamental change. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So, but of course, the issue at hand here is the total lunacy of the reinstatement of Donald Trump. And so now we showed you clips earlier in the regular show of Marjorie Taylor Greene doing crazy harassment of AOC before Marjorie Taylor Greene was a congresswoman, and crazy harassment of David Hogg, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So, and of course she of the Jewish space laser fame, right? And so it's not like she's a bastion of sanity, but once you get into Congress, I guess some staff members pull you aside and tell you some of the laws that apply in this country. Apparently not all of them, but some of them, right? Mm-hmm. And she probably asked, she's like, oh, okay, what's the process we go through for reinstating a president? They're like, Congresswoman Marjorie, we got bad news for you. There is no such process. It's not in the Constitution, it's not in any of the laws. There is no reinstatement. So apparently she's now heard that enough that she comes out and goes, turns out it's not a thing.
According to Trump, if you just repeat things stronger and harder, then it'll become the truth. You'll believe it finally.
That's what he said in a press conference today. We shared that earlier in the regular show too. So now, but if you notice, she didn't say that's not a thing. She actually said it turns out it's really hard. Yeah, it's really hard because it doesn't exist. Okay, there is no such thing.
It doesn't exist in a context where your preferred candidate lost in a democratic process. That's why it doesn't happen.
Say in Congress, it's really hard to do things that are not in any law book. But look, I just can't get past how insane not just Mike Lindell is, but the millions of people who believe the same thing. Mm-hmm. They've never picked up a book. They never went to high school. They haven't been exposed to anything other than right-wing media. Yeah. That's what it is. Yeah, and they're not, you're right, and I say crazy. Mike, I actually think Lindell has very significant mental health issues, right? And because he's in court, they're saying, hey, you none of what you've said is true, and you're going to owe us a ton of money for all of your lies and slander and defamation and all these different things. And he's like, that's why I think he's getting reinstated August 13th, right? We're gonna take out the communists, right? So he has some significant mental health issues. But I think most of the people who follow him, I hope, are not in that camp. They're in the camp of just watching right-wing media filled to the rim with lies, and they genuinely think there's a law in America or in the Constitution that says, if your feelings are hurt, we can reinstate the president. That's not there's no such thing as a reinstatement.
Yeah. I think the media is the problem, and more importantly, with the internet and how algorithms work, people exist in these bubbles, these ideological bubbles. You're just constantly served up more and more of the content that you tend to agree with. So I think that right now we're just experiencing two political parties that are living in like alternate universes.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, look, honestly, there's a lot of alternate universes now in America. That's because everybody's getting their media from other people. Part of the reason we had a shared common experience before is because, for better and for worse, by the way, but we had basically only one media. We had 3 channels in this country, and people look back like nostalgically to the Walter Cronkite years, and they say Walter Cronkite was objective, etc. Well, I mean, first of all, his most prominent times were when he got emotional and when he gave an opinion. So it's not, the opinion was the Vietnam War is not working. Emotional is when he cried when JFK was killed, which are all both understandable and great, but it's not as it really used to be. But whether it was objective or not, and whether it was even right or not, because usually the establishment media back then, and certainly now, protect the status quo. And I'm not in favor of that, right? And I think that does great damage to the country. But since we were all watching the same thing and we were all reading the same thing, we had a shared culture, a shared bond. And by the way, it's not just the media.
We were all propagandized by the same people.
Yeah, no, but by the way, but that's literally true though.
Yeah, I know.
It was propaganda, but it was the same propaganda, right? But there were other things too, like the draft. So in World War II, kids from all across the country, from all different racial backgrounds, ethnic class backgrounds, all went to war together and learned how to live with each other. Now there's no draft, so only the poor go, right? And maybe some middle class, etc. And so we don't get the same mix. But back to the media, yeah, look at that. Mike Lindell is on a conservative show, and the anchor never corrects him.
Right, exactly.
Right? And so if you're watching that media, you think, oh my God, that's great. Hey guys, hey honey, great news. Trump's come back on August 13th. I just saw it. And whether you saw it on TV or whatever. And we've also, one of the other things that we're programmed for, if like quite literally through television, right? Was if it's on TV or it's written down, it must be true. And so that was the original trick that the mainstream media used. But now the right-wing media goes, oh great, then we'll put it on TV and we'll write it down on Facebook. And if you read, hey, it says August 13th. By the way, it works for a lot of people. So good, meaning I've given you this example before. My dad, he's 83, and sometimes he reads stuff on Facebook, and he says, oh, you'll never believe XYZ. And I'm like, there's a good reason why you'll never believe it, Dad. That's an ad, and that's not a news story, and you got to check the source, right? So imagine how many people that happens to. But back to the fun stuff, I like that Marjorie Taylor Greene and Mike Lindell are having a pillow fight, if you will.
Oh, Jesus Christ, okay. No,
I'm here all week. Okay. And in this pillow fight, Marjorie Taylor Greene wins in the Battle of the Lunatics. And but even so, so what?
Can we just quickly address the fact that Mike Lindell owns a business?
That's I was gonna thank you. That's the other thing I want to get to. How do they live in the world? The guy runs a business. A lot of his business has failed, but My Pillow it sounds like it's a success.
People like pillows.
Well, bless his heart, right? But not his heart. But I get it. Pillows are good. We like pillows. Yeah. I like My Pillow. I like cushy things that you put your head on, sleep on. Anyway, seriously though, he's running a business, and apparently a semi-successful business. How? He's a lunatic. He genuinely, you can tell in all his appearances, it's not a shtick. Like Sean Hannity doesn't believe anything. He's a robot. He gets paid for talking points. Tucker Carlson is the most scheming guy you ever met. He doesn't believe a word he's saying on air. He's trying to hook people into watching his show through nonsense, right? But Lindell believes it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And so I don't understand how you could be that deeply irrational. I mean, how many times have his lawyers told him, Mike, there is no such thing as reinstatement, and Trump didn't win the election, and you're gonna lose all your money because you defame people and you say these terrible things that aren't true. And he's like, nope, I got it. Let's do it. How does he look at budget? I don't get it.
Well, I mean, pretty soon he's gonna be holding that pillow in a fetal position.
like rocking my
I lost everything.
My pillow.
All right. I don't wish ill upon anyone. I don't want him to suffer like that. But I mean, come on, Mike, get it together.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.